Hello and welcome to another episode of Learn the TOEFL the Easy Way with Teacher Fish. In this video, we will learn about the listening section of the TOEFL, specifically, main idea or sometimes called gist question. Be sure to watch the video in full, because I will be giving some tips to make answering a main idea question easier. A main idea or gist question covers the overall understanding of a lecture or conversation. The question focuses on the passage as a whole. In a lecture-based passage, the question may ask about the aspect that a professor focuses on his talk, while in a conversation, it may ask about the purpose of having a conversation or its main content. As test taker, successfully pointing at the main idea of a lecture or the gist of a conversation means a very high chance of answering the question correctly. In addition, if you are able to take note of the main idea or gist, you will have a better chance of effectively take notes of other important details in the passage. So in effect, the main idea helps set an outline for the things you should watch out for in the succeeding parts of the passage. Now let us look at how a main idea question may appear on the test. In a lecture-based passage, the question may look like, what is the main topic of the lecture? What aspect of X does the professor mainly discuss? What is the main purpose of the professor's lecture? Why did the professor mention X? On the other hand, in a conversation, a gist question may appear like, what are the speakers mainly discussing? What problem does the woman have? Why does the student visit the student housing office? Why did the professor ask to see the student? By knowing the type of question you are answering, you will be able to more effectively incorporate strategies that need to be used. Since we are talking about strategies, let us now move to the most exciting part of our lesson. I am going to give you some tips on how to more effectively answer a main idea or gist question. The first is, pay attention at the beginning part of a lecture. In a lecture-based passage, the speaker, who is always a professor, will often indicate at the start what the topic of the lecture is about. He or she will also often use a signal expression when introducing the main idea. For example, the professor may say,
Today, we will focus on the anatomy of Pterophyllum altums, one of the most sought-after freshwater fish in the aquarium hobby.
If you listen to the sample carefully, you may have noticed that the professor started her lecture with a signal word, which is today. However, be sure that what you write on paper as main idea is the statement that the professor mentions to describe the contents of the lecture, and not about a previously discussed topic, or not giving background information. Here is another sample where the professor starts her lecture with a statement about a previously discussed topic.
As we have learned, Pterophyllum altums are collected in the waters of Atabapo, which separates Colombia and Venezuela, and the waters of Orinoco. Today, we will focus on the anatomy of the species.
Notice again that the professor used the signal words, today, we will focus on, which indicates the topic that she will discuss with the class. Moving on, if the passage is a conversation, pay attention again to the beginning part, which is where a speaker will most likely state the problem or the reason for having the conversation. Sometimes a conversation immediately starts with the purpose. Other times it is mentioned after a few exchanges of dialogue, often a greeting. Let us again listen to a part of a conversation.
Excuse me, Professor, do you have a minute?
Sure, Jill. What can I do for you?
Regarding the research paper you assigned the class, is it possible to focus on the collection point of Pterophyllum altums? I mean, I surely cannot go to the places where they are collected, but there are a lot of sources on the internet.
As you may have heard, the purpose or the reason the student visits the professor is to ask about a research paper that she has to write. Again, remember that the main idea or gist, aside from being a constant question in TOEFL listening, also helps you anticipate what to expect on the next part of the passage. Another useful strategy for this question type is to be able to recognize key words that would help you determine the main idea or gist. Aside from signal words and transitional expressions, the speaker may also use key words. In most cases, the speaker will use certain key words that indicate what he or she intends to talk about. Some samples of key words are: we will focus on, let us talk about. There are two main reasons, several factors that affect. Let us listen again to a part of a lecture where the main idea includes key words.
There are several reasons. Altum angelfish is one of the most sought-after fish in the aquarium hobby.
By including the phrase, there are several reasons, we can anticipate that the professor is going to focus on these reasons. Do not worry if in case you were not able to take note of the main idea or gist, when it was mentioned at the beginning of the talk. The next strategy that may help you answer a main idea or gist question more effectively is by determining it through examples, explanations, and summary. In a typical listening passage, especially a lecture-based one, the topic is repeated through the course of the talk. For example, if the main idea you missed is about the reasons the Altum angelfish is one of the most sought-after fish in the aquarium hobby, the professor may state a detail like,
One reason Altums are a dream fish for many fish enthusiasts is because of its rarity.
or, the professor may say,
For example, out of 100 wild-caught species collected from its natural habitat, only a handful manage to survive the long journey, before it finally reaches someone's fish tank. So, once this handful of species are put on sale, fish enthusiasts scramble to get even a few pieces of the highly coveted fish.
By using details such as the explanation, one reason Altums are a dream fish for many aquarists is its rarity, and the example, which talks about why hobbyists race against each other to get a few Altums to their possession, although you might not note down the exact main idea or gist as the speaker would say, at least you will have a very good idea of what it is. The last strategy for a main idea or gist question is, be sure to listen to the overall theme of the passage. Main idea or gist questions are not about minor parts. They are connected with the entire passage. So avoid answers that are only minor themes in the passage. Let us again go back to the third strategy. We talked about details such as explanation and example. Now, let us differentiate the two types of details. While an explanation may be considered a major detail because it is a statement that develops a point of the main idea, an example is known to be a minor detail. Keep in mind that a main idea or gist question is not about either of the types of details mentioned. The answer to this question must be something that talks about the entirety of the passage, not just one part of it. Listen to this example.
Listen to part of a lecture in a marine biology class.
The next type of whale I want to cover is the killer whale. Killer whales are found in every ocean, but they particularly like the cold waters in the Arctic and Antarctic regions. Just so you know, killer whales are sometimes called orcas, after the species' scientific name. Orcas are toothed whales. As their name suggests, they hunt and eat other marine creatures. Some only eat fish, while others eat seals, sea lions, and penguins. A few orcas even attack whales and sharks. In fact, orcas are at the top of the marine life food chain. As far as whales go, orcas aren't large. Yet they're the largest predatory mammals in the world. They have an average length of 5 to 7 meters. They weigh between 1,500 and 5,500 kilograms. The males are larger than the females. Orcas have a distinctive color pattern of black and white. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, right? As a reminder, here is a picture of an orca. See how the black is on the top half of the body, while the bottom half is mostly white? It also has a large white spot near its head. An orca's body is streamlined for speed. Notice the high dorsal, back fin here, and the flat tail fin here. Now, how about their behavior, particularly their hunting methods?
Now here is the question. What is the lecture mainly about? A. The characteristics of killer whales. B. The places where killer whales live. C. The number of killer whales in the ocean. D. The color pattern of killer whales. If your answer is A, then you are correct. The professor describes what killer whales eat. Then she continued with her lecture by talking about how they look like. Choices B and D, although both mentioned in the lecture, are minor parts of it, while choice C is not mentioned in the passage at all. Now it is time for us to put the strategies we just learned into test. Let's see if you can answer the question correctly.
Listen to part of a lecture in a virology class. Viruses are incredibly tiny organisms, microorganisms really, that infect living hosts. Oh, and I'm referring to biological viruses, not computer viruses, okay? All viruses must have a living host in order to survive and to replicate. Viruses can also pass from one host to another. Because of this ability, they are responsible for many of the world's contagious diseases. Some, such as the common cold, are usually not too serious. Others, however, have killed millions. Among these are malaria, which even today kills more than 1 million people each year, and the bubonic plague, which was responsible for the infamous Black Death during the late Middle Ages. It killed nearly half of Europe's population. Now, let's look at how viruses infect humans. They can be passed from a mother to her unborn child. That's vertical transfer. You've probably heard of babies being born with AIDS, right? Well, that's an example of vertical transfer. Viruses may also be transferred from person to person. In this case, their ages and relationships do not matter at all. We call this horizontal transfer. It, by the way, is the most common way that viruses get transferred. Horizontal transfer can occur in several ways. A virus can be passed through the air. For instance, when someone coughs or sneezes, the common cold and influenza viruses can get transferred. Viruses can spread through food and water. Other viruses are carried by insects, which sometimes bite humans and thus spread infections. Mosquitoes and fleas are known to be carriers of several types of deadly viruses. Viruses can also spread through the transfer of blood from one person to another. This can happen through sexual contact and blood transfusions, among other ways. Finally, some viruses can actually survive outside a host for short periods of time. In some instances, a virus can be picked up by a new host, which gets infected, while the virus is airborne.
Here is the question. What aspect of viruses does the professor mainly discuss? A. The animals that may transfer them to humans. B. The number of people they kill each year. C. The ways in which they may infect humans. D. Their physical characteristics and appearances. Answer choice C is the aspect of viruses that the professor mainly discusses. He notes that viruses spread through both horizontal and vertical transfer. Then he explains some specific ways that they are transferred through both methods. Choices A, B, and D are all incorrect, because they cover minor parts of the lecture. And so, we have reached the end of our lesson video about the first TOEFL listening question, main idea or just question. I hope that after watching the video, you now find the question easier to answer. I have uploaded a practice exercise about main idea and just question, so try to visit my channel and practice your newly learned skill. If you have comments, suggestions, and feedback, please leave them on the comment section, and I will do my best to answer them as fast as I can. Also, please do not forget to press like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, so that you'd be informed every time I upload a new video. And always remember, the TOEFL is not difficult, if you know what to do. With that, see you again on the next episode of Learn the TOEFL the Easy Way with Teacher Fish.